Good morning. Well, it's Martin Luther King Day, and it's something that a day when I remember how things were before Martin Luther King and after Martin Luther King. And I can tell you things are really different before. I don't think many of you are old enough to remember what it was like back in the day when you had to sit at the back of the bus, when you couldn't eat at a counter, you couldn't live where you could afford to live, you had to live in a certain area, you had to go to a certain school that was um, for Black people only. And when I would travel from California with my family to visit family in Texas, it was different. Um, I remember even asking my aunt once, why can't I go get some ice cream from the counter in a drugstore? And she said, I'll just buy you some ice cream. And I'm like, but I want to go sit over there. And nah, didn't happen. It was only when I was older, looking back, I realized that that's what the problem was. It was segregation. Sitting at the back of the bus on a Greyhound bus, automatically going to the back. But then when you get off to have a meal, they had two different waiting rooms or restaurants where you could eat. And I remember looking in one, all these beautiful salads and everything else, and then the colored only uh, restaurant, or whatever you want to call it, eating room. It had, it was dirty. It had a big pan of beans with the juice going down the side of it. And my aunt took one look and she says, well, we're not going in here. Uh, we'll just go back and eat the rest of the chicken and boiled eggs. And that's what we did. And so when Martin Luther King came along, you can't understand, and I want you to understand, how much courage it took for him to be at the forefront of that movement. And it was a movement. The March on Washington, um, just a number of things that were different. And ultimately getting the Civil Rights Act signed, which they're trying to gut now. But looking at all that he accomplished, and when he was uh, taken out, he was only 39 years old. But look how much he accomplished. Look how much he and those who walked beside him and stood beside him accomplished. They accomplished a great deal. And so it's kind of bittersweet today because I'm not watching um, that sham in Washington, D.C. today, held on the birthday of the person um, who changed this country for the good. Now, someone who's being installed wants to revert back to pre Martin Luther King. So I remember the day that um, things happened. I was 18 years old, and I could not believe that it happened. It had already happened with John Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. And then for it to happen again not only with Martin Luther King, but Robert F. Kennedy. And these were people who were trying to make America live up to its promises, to the greatness that it could become, and that it should be, and that it is on paper. It's a great country on paper. And that's what they were working towards. To see him gone, and a lot of young people don't even realize how difficult it was during that time. You could only get certain kinds of jobs. You could only go to certain colleges. Law school, you had to, if you were in the South, you had to go to the North to go to law school. My aunt had to travel in order to get her master's degree. She had to travel every summer from Texas to California and do it in the summer because she taught school during the year. And she would spend the summer working on her master's from USC. It was really tough back then. So what I would like to do is just, pay tribute to a man who really accomplished something, not for himself, but for all of us and all of the young people who followed. I worry because the forces at play are trying to destroy not just his legacy, but what he worked so hard for that impacts all of us. And it was sad to see so many young Black people saying you weren't going to vote. And you didn't. So here we are. So I just thought I'd come in and share my memories. I was so proud of him. I mean, I couldn't believe this man was saying the things that he was saying in his speeches. The courage that it took to do that in the face of a system that was really stacked up against you. In the face of a system that would take water hoses on innocent people who were trying to walk and put them full blast fire hoses on women, children, and men, on everybody. This was the America then for Black people. And a lot of us went to vote to prevent that from happening again. Because you see what's happening in the streets. You see those guards that beat that guy to death. They still haven't been arrested or charged so far, to my knowledge. So I would like to just give a huge shout out and thanks to Martin Luther King for doing what he did, for sacrificing his family life, his time, and everything else for the greater good. Now, there are detractors who said, oh, he wasn't a perfect person. Who is a perfect person? Last I heard, the only perfect person to ever walk this earth was Jesus Christ. And ain't nobody measuring up to that. But he was a great man. Martin Luther King Jr. was a great man. And it was difficult. It was hard work to get his birthday. That Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday song would come out every year prior to them finally honoring him with this birthday as a holiday. But no one knows how hard it was. They just take it for granted it's a day off. It took years of struggle to get this day to honor him. And I'm going to do that today. And I, like others, will not be watching the sham in Washington, D.C. So when you get the opportunity, and I'm speaking to basically the young people who don't know what happened, take a look at how it was before and how it changed. Martin Luther King was the face and body of the civil rights movement. Then look at how it got better. I mean, seriously, Nat King Cole, one of the biggest stars, had a TV show. He had to fight in court to live in one of the houses in, I think it was Brentwood, somewhere like that, but he could afford it. And it made the headlines in the Herald Examiner. I'll never forget, I saw that. But that's how bad it was. And that was in California. So when you take things for granted, realize and understand it was voting that got us ahead. It was voting, marching, and standing strong together that got us ahead. And the person who was the face of that movement was and is and will forever be Martin Luther King Jr. And I pray that his spirit rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Doctor. Sorry. Thank you, Dr. King.